awesome, just that alone. I think that it's really awesome that you bring up this. If we're not consciously creating, then we're unconsciously creating.
Yeah.
So we're creating all the time. So we all want to get real clear about what are we creating. If we're not thinking about it, or we're not creating it, it's just being created for us with all of our unconscious thoughts. So we have to put conscious thoughts and collaborative effort towards our creations.
Absolutely. And the intention behind that and the energy behind that, one of the things you wanted to bring up today was about love. And so if we create from that place of love rather than fear or any other kind of lower vibe emotion or energy, then it's going to be amazing.
Well, and so I want to talk about this whole thing. Like, it's come up a lot. I just came out of co-leading a women's retreat this weekend, and we did a lot of beautiful tools and release and getting in the body and energy work and letting go of trauma and working with our masculine, feminine, and this alpha, omega, and head, heart, left, right, brain connection, which I think is a huge part of kind of what I'd say the density that we have been embodying in these last years, because we took all the arts out of the schools. We took everything. In America, they really fleshed the things that connected you to your right brain, really became very hard to find, unless
Like
you're
extra. It was an extra.
Yeah, it's an extra thing and not a foundational thing. So most people are really thinking all the time. You're living in this left brain, which is this thinking, logical, step-by-step brain. It wants to know, well, how are we going to do that? Well, what's going to happen? Well, then what? Then what are we going to do? Well, then what? Are you going to take that? It's a lot of questions. It's got a lot of questions.
Well, and there's also like you go from A to B to C to
very
D.
Very linear.
It's very linear. It doesn't allow for like the magic to happen because it's kind of, it's just different.
Right. So we like both of the balance. There's some beautiful things about that left brain. Logic is a nice thing. Critical thinking, moving through those kind of things in a way that makes sense. But what's really fun is when we get that right brain involved, and now we're sensing more into the world. We are feeling more into the world. And when, Eila says, hey, do you want to go grab a sandwich? I'm not thinking, well, what time is it? Well, what do I have next? I'm just feeling it first. Do I want to go get a sandwich with Eila? Does that feel like that's the thing to do right now? Is source energy guiding me to live this? So this brings me to, and this is a topic I've been really excited to almost do a video on in my personal channel and expand upon, because I think it's so huge. And that is manifesting versus true creation. So in a manifesting paradigm, you're thinking about, and we've been taught this a lot with like The Secret or all these other things where you're thinking into stuff and you're creating it by putting your mind to it, seeing yourself in the red car, being free, right? That whole experience of feeling into an experience. So that is one aspect. We're manifesting. We're using our mind energy.
It's like a vision board thing.
We're
right?
vision boarding.
Yeah.
Exactly. Which is cool. And it's powerful and important part of our whole gig. But the part that really gets us like into the magic is this feeling of letting go. Like you put all this stuff on the vision board and then you let it go. Like the Dalai Lama, like the Buddhist paintings, the Tibetan sand, these intricate mandalas that are amazing and take a lot of effort and energy, and then whoosh, wash it away and let it go. So that's that practice of this unattachment and allowing that I put it all out there, and now it's out there, and I know that source completely has me. And so I'm going to now ride on true creation and allow true creation to guide me where I'm going, to listen into things and not get stuck and fixated on something I thought, well, I'm waiting for that red car, but a purple van shows up, or, these other opportunities
Yeah.
arise, and you miss them because you fixate and you don't realize that source is actually giving you everything you want all the time. If you could drop in and feel it and like sense, and then like it's almost like there's like a person behind you in the waiting line at the store, and it's like if you just turned your head and looked and go, hi, there's
Yeah.
the opportunity.
Yeah.
But we stay fixated on, well, no, I'm busy and I'm getting to the store and I remember, instead of seeing this magical place where we're being led and guided. So a guided life versus a life by my own will and this processed brain is really what I'm talking about when I say let's live by love, right? What is love? Love can be varied things. It's an authentic expression, authentic care, because I'm being guided by love itself, the love of the infinite, right? We're allowing the unity to be the voice that moves you, the unity to be that which you listen to versus your mind and this processor.
And I see that there's like a kind of like waves with this where you're in and out of them, and I think over time, or at least my experience is over time, because I'm one who did the vision boards, and I've done that, and it's been really valuable to do that because it helped me to get out of maybe some other thinking pattern and think about, and this is good for all of us, kind of what do we want our lives to look like? What would we like to have more of or less of? And then I feel more now, I'm more in this place of like just riding the waves of creation and being open to that, and things, it's so magical. I mean, the moments that happen are just, and it's for me, it's like goosebumps. My whole body gets chills, and you just never know when it's going to happen or where it's going to happen. And I didn't know that I'd want that to happen. That wouldn't have been on my vision board. Let's have chills every day when we connect with people. Like,
right, you couldn't have made it up. Like Source does such a better job of dishing up. We're like, well, I thought I wanted this red convertible, but I really wanted this. This is what I really wanted.
Well, and the purple van, like you're saying, because I was just thinking about this recently, is like, I want this, or at least I have the idea that I want this red convertible, and then this purple van comes into my life, and I'm like, all right, well, go with the flow. We're going with the flow, so we get the purple van, and then something opens where you're rescuing animals or you need to deliver stuff for people, and it's like, oh my God, thank goodness I have the van.
Exactly. So you never know what's coming next, and you're given exactly what you need for when you need it. It's like, I just happen to have. It feels like that a lot, almost sillily, because you're like, I just got this thing yesterday, and now you need it. Here you go.
Yeah.
Like things like that happen. And that's happened to me. I've been on the receiving and the giving end of that kind of story where you feel the real magic coming through you. Like I was driving over to the other side, the east side, to do some classes, and I brought like a bag of avocados to a friend of mine, and they came from someone else that brought them to me, and I actually had a lot at the time, so you were over avocados. I was over avocados, so I'm like, I need to share, so I'm going to share, and then when I gave them to my friend, he goes, oh, I was just feeling into how I need some avocados. And I said, well, I'm Source's servant. Here you go. I'm just doing my job.
And that brings up the being in service, too.
Right.
It's rather than listening. I want the red convertible. It's, well, I think that would be fun to drive the red convertible and not be attached to it because there's something else. And in that, maybe I am able to be in service. And maybe I wind up with the red convertible and I give my friends rides in it, and that's a lot of fun. So it is in a... One way is the right way. It's that idea of being more in the flow of it.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's definitely not about a material object. I kind of was lacking there in a metaphor when I reached for that. They use that in The Secret, I think, the red car, and when they're talking about manifesting. So it's more of like manifesting a material object. But what I'm really talking about is like your vision of your feeling of what do you want to experience.
Yeah.
Like I know from myself, every time I'm visioning into that, and you come up against like something you're experiencing now per se, that it's not really happening for you, let's say. So how do I get to another place so I'm experiencing the one thing I want to experience? Well, I have to kind of look at what in my story right in front of me is vibrating something that I'm looking for. Like we're all trying to heal something, or we're just seeing ourselves in these scenarios that we create around us. You really are your creations, even though they're other people. They're vibrating to you, you're vibrating to them, and we kind of play out our stuff. If like I had, we vibrate to each other. So it's that classic, defense, offense, that which goes together finds it, victim, victimizer. All those things are happening so we can play out our understanding, so we can find ways of meeting each other and healing. And so you're seeing your reflection. So when we see that, I have to really take, for me, again, back to self-responsibility. The more I'm willing to go, this is my movie.
Yeah.
And I get to see what is keeping me from really experiencing this feeling that I'm really wanting to experience. And first and foremost for me, it's letting go of my wantingness or my attachment to it. So that's kind of number one for me, unattached and amused. Which brings me to say a shout out to Eric Kuchera. It's his birthday today too.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday. And unattached and amused. And we have to get there first so that we can really come into a place of having what we want, because you can't have it until you let it go. It's kind of that thing. If you want something, set it free, and then if it comes back to you, it's truly meant to be. So if anything we want, we really, the funny hilarity here in the earth grid is kind of like, you can't have it if you need it.
And you really want it and you're attached to it.
If you're attached to it, it's going to keep going like the dangling carrot and get further and further away.
Yeah.
So you have to let it go. You literally have to let it die. It has to die to you internally, like, right, I can let that go. I don't need that thing. And that thing that I want so much from this situation or this person, I have to now give to myself. And whatever's keeping me from giving that to myself, in myself, I have to find. So if my little girl's like, no, I don't want to give that to myself because nobody ever loved me and I need this, I have to go talk to her at that age and be like, well, what do you need, little girl? And where are you that you think all this stuff? And let's figure it out. Like, okay, I see you. Well, I can explain a lot to my little girl because I know now, right? You're older. You know things your little girl doesn't know. So you can tell her.
Yeah.
And this is a recall of the picking up your pearls for anyone out there who remembers these things. This is that, which is, again, so crucial of a process of really going in there and finding your stuff. So the key to me is us all understanding I'm responsible for my own happiness, and I get to take charge of that, and I get to move into greater awareness, and I'm not a victim, and I get to change it by looking at myself, looking at what am I doing to create this, and how can I move into greater harmony with my inner self.
One of the things that while you were talking, I was thinking about, how I've been putting out, I want to experience more joy. And sometimes to get to the joy, there may be some not so fun experiences. And I hadn't considered it that way. Like, maybe I need to have, just a fall down in some way, or some kind of a thing, some kind of an experience that doesn't feel like joy. And yet that provides the contrast so that when I experience the joy, it's like, oh, this feels so good.
Well, I definitely think there is definitely a dark night of the soul.
Yes.
And there are fires.
And a lot of them.
And coals. And you do have to walk through really dark, dangy, gross places. Yep. I've been like, really? This is where I'm at? Like, this sucks. Like, I'm so not into this. But give thanks and praise. I'm going to get my lessons. I'm going to meet my stuff. I got it. And that's all you really can do is I must have what I need when I need it, because here I am. And I always go with if you're there, you've got it. If I'm here, I must be able to handle it because it's happening. I mean, there's no other option.
You said something to me last week that really helped me see. This is one of those things that I can see for somebody else, but not so easy for myself. And that was, I think maybe I was sliding back in certain aspects of my life. And you're like, no, it's just more layers, peeling back layers. It's not about going back. And I know I just said that probably a month ago on the show that, oh no, it's all about going forward.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes when we're feeling something or we're experiencing something and it's a throwback to some other time, it's like, oh no, I'm going backwards, for all the good things I've done. Damn.
And it's never really that. It's more layers. Everybody out there.
More
it's
layers.
more layers. As you own, like we talked about, you own the spiral. We've talked about it 3 times, level up. You're leveling up in your game as you move through your consciousness and evolve yourself. And it's like sometimes you're like, wait, you're on that spiral staircase, you're like, wait, is that the same painting? Didn't I see that painting already on the staircase? But it's slightly different.
It looks different
because
now.
there's a different angle, and there's something maybe you haven't seen or missed, or it was associated to another layer, or it was covered by that particular layer. So you couldn't get to these lower pieces. And so many things are snug down deep in our deep subconscious, and they are really connected to so many other places in time. So luckily for us, many of those things show up in your current reality. You can find the thread. And I've seen it like that in my meditations and in my mind's eye, like a thread lighting up through the whole thing and like pulling a thread. It's really cool. I have a whole meditation that's really fun on that. Anyway, so this is about getting your memories and really pulling them from the core of where they inset, and then seeing how they played out in your life, like this emotional, I'm not worthy. I believed something. I thought I wasn't good enough. And so I played it out here. And it's just this story that I was running about feeling not okay, not worthy, not lovable, right? So there's a lot of stories we run, and then we create these stories that match them because they feel familiar and because we're trying to get something from it, trying to heal ourselves or trying to find the thing we want. So we just recreate it around us. So that's what we're doing. We're all inside our own recreations of our own emotional woundings and playing out mostly our mother and father issues for the most part. I mean, it pretty much is the game. That's pretty much it. Like, I mean, I've been playing out my father issues the whole time. It's been like, my mom and I were just talking the other day. She's like, remember when I gave you that book when we were like 14? It's like the abandoned daughter or the unlovable, something like that. Like, which is, there's a whole patterns. I'm like, I do remember. And of course, I've been working out those patterns this whole time, which are all the things that your little girl feels. I know certain things now. I don't have any angst around my father, but your child self, we take a lot of things very personal that my 25-year-old self or 30-year-old self's not going to do, but my 3-year-old, 4-year-old, 5-year-old self definitely does. So we have to tune into all of ourselves that we're all really amazing, brilliant people. And I know really brilliant, phenomenal people who are deeply emotionally wounded because their 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9-year-old self was not treated well and was not given love. It doesn't mean they're not brilliant. It doesn't mean they're not genius. It doesn't mean they're not incredible people. It means that we all have wounding, and this wounding is what's really navigating our internal game and our internal reality that we're experiencing with another person, especially as we get into relationshiping or intimate relations, work, relations, and all those kind of things. You're navigating your deeper mirrors. So this knowingness that to really understand and be able to claim self-responsibility for yourself is really like huge. I see it out there as being a very difficult thing for people in trauma to do. It's easy to take things personal. It's easy to think everything's about you, and then it's all about you, because when we haven't felt good enough and someone told me I sucked and I was bad, then I'm like, what did I do wrong? I mean, what did I do? What did I do? I'm just thinking about survival. I'm in trauma. So I take it personal when I was like, hey, did you move the glass? I'm like, oh, what did I do wrong? What did I do wrong? I'm like, she's just like, did you move the glass? No big deal.
It was a simple question.
But I'm freaking out because
you have a different filter.
That's
that
right.
You're hearing through.
I'm hearing it through another filter.
Yeah.
So this is what we're really dealing with here on this planet is we are all coming from different traumas. And they can be small to big. I mean, we have the really deep traumas, which really bring us into places like, psychotic stuff and narcissism, lack of empathy, really deep, service to self behaviors, all the way to more simple ones where maybe you just didn't get a sandwich when you're on that road trip when you were 4 and you felt like you were starved to death, and now you have to think about food.
Yeah.
And, it could be simple like that,
Yeah.
not like this big thing. It doesn't have, you're like, well, nothing bad happened to me. Well, no, little things can be traumatizing to our little self because we don't understand and we're very sensitive. We are all angelic humans.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Take a breath on that. Yeah.
Yeah.
You said the mirroring thing came up for me the other day in a different way. I was talking to someone about they're having a lot of people come into their life that brings a lot of positivity to them. Mm-hmm. And I said, well, that's mirroring too.
Yeah, you're
so now
vibing
you're mirroring higher vibe kind of stuff. And so, yeah, there's still some of the darkness that's working. And you can also have these beautiful mirroring experiences with other humans where you're that's positive and loving and kind and all that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And oftentimes it's both. You know what I mean? Yeah. You're having these awesome experiences and you're creating and you're moving forward. But yet at the same time, there's one area or something of your world. And that's important to acknowledge because a lot of us feel like, well, I'm so this, I'm that, I'm already established, I'm already successful. How could I be having an issue with blah, blah?
Right.
But
I had 20 years of therapy. I'm over that.
Yeah. We don't want to cop to it in that way because, I'm somebody or I shoulda, woulda, coulda.
Yeah.
So don't should on ourselves. And instead we can go, I'm still brilliant. You're still brilliant. You're still amazing. And all these things are still true.
Right.
While this one piece of myself is being unfolded, while this aspect of me is being healed because, for me, it's been a big one. That's been huge. The father.
And there's all those layers of it. It's
all
not just
layers.
one incident. It's not about an incident, really. And we don't know sometimes if it goes back to other lifetimes.
And it did for me.
Yeah.
It did go back to other lifetimes and other things entirely that weren't even related to what you think of as father issues.
Yeah.
It was related to other things entirely. So it really is it's a real seeking into your psyche, a seeking into your own self. You're deepening into where you're following it down the rabbit hole. You're literally going, I'm going to follow the thread and connecting it in your mind and that's why you want to take time to be alone and sit and just and beautiful. It's great to do if you can sit outside. It's wonderful. But sit in your room, sit in the bathroom, sit anywhere and just have time to breathe and be in yourself and look within and follow things. Take the space because everything is trying to get you to not do that. Because if you actually stop and you look inside yourself, you will find it.
That brings up something. I was talking to someone at lunch that I ran into in town about the phone. This was someone who hadn't really had a smartphone for a couple of years. And just talking about how liberating that was for her. And I shared that I had forgotten my phone when I was traveling back in September, and it was amazing. And I think if we can do our own kind of putting it aside, so that we're not distracted, because there's a lot of distraction on social media and the internet, and it's fine. It's all part of our life, and we need to continue to connect with ourselves and the earth and listen to something that isn't trying, like you say, everything's trying to get your attention.
I really say put the phone down as much as possible. Use it as little as possible. Use it for what you need to create, what you're wanting. But scrolling and just looking and giving energy to things that just really have no value, it's literally just dumping your energy into something that doesn't matter. If we think about what's my intention in using anything, because nothing in and of itself is evil or wrong. It's our intention. Am I trying to check out? Am I bored? Am I activating laziness? Or am I actually trying to be a co-creator, and am I using this to create? Am I using this to make
Right.
things happen in the world? Am I using this to be of service, to promote my business, to, make sure I
Right.
talk
To
to
reach more
my
people.
grandma,
Yeah.
Jenny?
Yeah.
How am I using these tools? What is my viewpoint in using these things? Get clear on your intention. So you realize, well, that's not what I want to be doing. When you start, if you start looking at it, you're a brilliant creator. You start looking at it, you're like, oh, I don't really want to do that. Well, that is silly. Why am I putting that?
Yeah.
Well, I don't even know why I do that. It's a hilarity when you start looking at all the little things. You literally are like, it's ridiculous. Like, most of it's ridiculous. You can't even believe why you did half the things you did or experienced it that way, because it really doesn't even make sense. It's just that we perceive so many things with these filters. And as we heal and you release the wounding, the filters get to be released. See, and now as they lift, you can see it. And you're like, oh, I thought that was that, but it's not. I thought Eila was like on my case about that drink, and I realized she just wants to drink it, and it's on the wrong spot for her to reach it. It has nothing to do with me. Like, she just wants the drink,
Yeah.
So see, we really get to move into a wider expanse. I'm going to bring up the Toltec agreements again, because it's just always so good. Take nothing personal. Make no assumptions. Be impeccable with your word. Always do your best.
Those are some lovely things to have with us. I had my brother visiting for 10 days, and he lives very differently than I do. And he's very attached to his computer, and he loves podcasts. He loves intellectual stimulation. And he just listened to these podcasts day and night. It's really amazing. I mean, we'd go out and do stuff, and as soon as he'd get home, there was a nap and there was the podcast. So after a few days, and he's very smart, and he loves art history. And I said, and he has a great speaking voice. He was a teacher for many years. I'm like, you're articulate, you're smart, and you love this art history stuff. Why don't you create a podcast?
Yeah.
Think about that. Like, just imagine that you could be talking, because he loves to talk too. You could be talking about the stuff that you love, and there are people out there who would like to hear it. I might not be one of them, but they're out there.
But they're out there.
Yeah, and he really knows it, and he goes to other countries to see their art, and he came back a little bit later, and he said, I think I'd have to do it like a video, because, I'd want to show the picture. So already he was creating.
Yeah.
And he was a teacher, so you had to create, you had to be there with students. So I kind of want to follow up with him.
Yeah. How's the podcast coming?
Yeah. And be that kind of voice of inspiration.
Oh, yes.
One of the things I noticed when he was here is, I wanted to be really mindful about not going back in time, because, we grew up together. We had a close connection for years, but in the past, 16 years, we hadn't seen each other that much. But I'd like to know who he is today. And there was this one day I was going to go get photographs for us to look at of our parents, grandparents, great-grandparents, all that. I couldn't find them. And I was like, you know what? We're not going to look at the photographs because I can't find them. And I think that's okay. It's okay to be, I really do want to be here now. It's like the universe helped me with that, because it's fine to remember, but it's so important to be here now and to be with people where they are now, not where they were 10 years ago or when you remember them. I think it's...
Oh, that's big. That gets into projections and all sorts of things. There are people remembering each other from old paradigms as we move forward in this reality. That's something we all face. As you grow, you're going to meet up with people who are not growing that you knew before. And then you get to hold your energy and your growth in this new paradigm.
Yeah.
And so that's a cool thing you just brought up. So be careful out there about your projections onto others and others projecting onto you. See what's yours and what belongs to somebody else. And I love this inspiration plant you're talking about with your brother and the art history, which is, for all of us, right? It's how can you go to creativity? maybe I love that you switched this from just sitting there, listening to this thing. Be a creator and share and flip the script. So how can you flip the script out there? Like, how can I flip into belief? And we talked a lot about this in the Sacred Women's work this week, which was so powerful and beautiful, and really, shifting that into ownership of whatever it is you love, right? Whatever, if you want to do art history, or if you're, an architect, or you're a healer, or whatever it is you do, that you want to embody, to just own that and to really believe and have confidence in that thing, really to put that on. And what keeps us from doing that is buying into all these other things. Well, so-and-so thinks, or da-da-da-da, dee-dee-dee-dee.
Or I'm not good enough.
Or I'm not good enough, which brings me back to worthiness. I'm not worthy. Kind of we're dealing with I'm not worthy, or I'm not loved most of the time. And then there's a string of things that go with it. Like I'm not worthy is kind of I'm not enough, I'm not good enough, I don't do things. People don't want to be around me. There's a whole bunch of inside there. So you can bring it back to my feeling like I'm not worthy. Am I not feeling loved? Am I feeling rejected? I'm not feeling loved. So kind of bringing it into those energies. And they come from our wounded parents, right? It's the wounded energies come from our wounded masculine, our wounded feminine. We get wounded from the parental navigation. And then we basically play that out for the rest of the journey. So that's what we're all doing. Dun, 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 dun. Hey, it's so much fun.
It is. And, one of the things that was nice about connecting with my sibling is that we have different memories of those people, those parents, and what they did or what they didn't do. And he doesn't hold stuff against them or anything like that. So it's easy for us to talk kind of freely, like, imagine this, like, oh, yeah, like it's nice to have that. Maybe that's part of, as we get older, we can reflect back without the triggers.
And did you get to see anything different? Like, oh, wow, you saw it that way. I felt it this way. And shift anything or see it more neutrally?
He shared some things about my mom that I didn't know that he shared with her about dancing. Remember I said something, I wanted to come to your dance party, and I was so disappointed I didn't push myself, because we were down in Kona, and he's not a rhythmic person. It was hard for him to learn to dance because it didn't come naturally. And we were down in Kona, and we came out of a restaurant, and there was music playing. He's like, come on, let's dance. And I'm like, oh my God. And he's doing the cha-cha with me. It was so much fun. And he was telling me how he took dance lessons when he was a younger man. And I was like, oh man, I didn't realize we could be doing this like it was his last day. Like we could have been dancing more. But he was with the podcast, and I didn't.
And you didn't know.
He wasn't listening to music.
Well, gosh,
so
as a salsa teacher, that just warms my heart to know that, I imagine my students having magical moments with their family
and that
people
it stays with them.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah. Well, let's take a break, and we'll come back with some more awesome conversation. Here we go. All right, we're not going to take that station break because it's not working for some reason. So there we go.
Oh,
sorry about that. There we go.
Okay, well then, hey, we'll be the station break.
We are the station break. So here's the station break. Shop KNKR because it helps the radio station, and we're getting new computers, and KNKR could use some donations. And after this is Women's Voices at 4 o'clock or 4:05 today. So stay tuned for that. And after that is Switched On Radio Gab. So stay for that. We got a lot of good shows today.
Beautiful day today.
There we go. There's our commercial.
And then you got www.knkr.org to find all of that juicy information.
And more. Yes. Okay. We're back.
And we're back to Intuitive Talk Story.
On March 6th, 2024 at 3:39 p.m. And where would you like to go next, love?
Goodness, there's so many places to go all the time. So, we started this conversation about manifesting and true creation, and kind of went through different ways to pick up your pearls and kind of face yourself along the journey, bringing ourselves back to self-responsibility so we can create the world we want to see as a collective, and we can be responsible co-creators by taking responsibility for our own emotions, our own experiences, and then really meeting one another from this place and paradigm. So I guess, what really stands out is the use of meditation and all these tools that we've talked about.
Yeah.
When things get rough, I'll just my own reflect on, gosh, this morning I had a conversation on the phone that I thought, I'm going to go outside and stand in the ground. And I squatted down, and instead of letting my mind do a lot of things it wanted to do, I just went straight to meditation, straight to let go, let God. I cut all cords. I come into my heart and I breathe. And I just was there breathing, being with nature, listening to the air and the wind. And just this simple thing alone of just claiming your space and deciding that whatever you think is happening right now does not have the power, but that you have the power by going within and taking a look at whatever is going on, or by letting it go and then allowing the smoke to then reveal that which has been hidden from you because you are willing to surrender.
I had a very, very busy day yesterday. I had so many people come through the store, so many meaningful, deep conversations. About halfway through the day, my head started to throb a little bit, which doesn't happen very often for me. And as soon as it started, I'm like, I wonder what that's connected to. Well, it doesn't really matter. Just, you got to cut some cords. So I did some cord cutting. I did some releasing, letting go. And it got better, and I got home, and I was rather tired and still feeling that through the night. And I continued to do all the tools. I did go outside, and I stood on the ground with my bare feet for about 15 minutes and just breathing and taking all that in and just trusting that it's here and it's going to go. And it did. It went away. And it's so helpful to have those tools, though, for those of you listening out there. It makes such a difference. It's first of all, it's not I'm a victim of something. And I don't know that it was from anybody or just a busy day. I don't have to know what was it. I just knew it was something that developed over the course of the day. And I think some of us think that if we don't feel well, if we get some kind of physical ailment or we've failed. Oh, I must not be doing it right because now I have this. And really, it's there to inform us of something, and then we get to practice our tools with it.
Because I believe and see and experience physical pain and all those kind of things to be just energies. They're just energy. It's just literally you can have a sore throat right this second, clear an energy and not have one.
Yes, absolutely.
I might do that right now.
Well, I saw somebody yesterday who was doing
Yeah.
that. She kept coughing, and I had someone else there who does a lot of healing work. And the woman who kept coughing said, I don't want to make anybody sick. And I'm like, listen,
You're not going to make me
You're not going to make, that's not going to happen to me, for me. And the woman who does all this healing work, she's like, I feel that this is because you're getting ready to go to a new level with your communication. Like another perspective.
Yeah.
That it's
and
there
I love
for
not
some.
the panic, right? Like, oh no, what's wrong, right? Because that's
Yes,
what you're
let me
really
go take a pill. Yeah.
bringing in this be curious, back to curiosity, and explore why it's there. What is it showing you? And you can only really do that if you sit down and go within.
Right. Don't go on your phone and look it up. You don't need to look it up.
Go inside yourself, because you're going to have the answers. Just because you have a certain symptom doesn't mean that's what you have. You know what I mean?
Yes.
It's all like a case-by-case thing. We're all completely different. We get headaches for different reasons at different times. It's not like it's across the board anything. There's all different things going on, and we're multidimensional, and we're experiencing everything all at once. So it really
I just saw that movie again.
Oh, isn't it fabulous? It really does a great job of showing the ridiculousness.
Let's say the name of the movie.
Everything, Everywhere, All at Once.
It was 2022, I think. And
Yeah.
I watched it, and my brother actually took the headphones off the podcast to watch it with me.
Fabulous.
And he loved it. And I
Yeah.
didn't expect that. I
Oh.
thought he was going to think that is crazy stuff. That's not for me. But
You never know.
you never
See?
know
You
what.
never know. You don't, and you know you can't
Yeah.
make any assumptions. So
Nope.
we
Nope.
just open and wondering and curious with one another. And you know, the more I really try, I get lots of great opportunities in my journey to just be focused on the love and the light, and in spite of anything else that comes up, in spite of, you know, I do a lot of nonprofit work and in places that are dealing with difficult things. And, you know, I've got to experience a lot of the trauma that comes with that, of having hardship for people. And, you know, the havingness and basic needs. And, you know, if we're not in basic needs, we can't get to these finer tuned things. What we're talking about requires you to have food in your belly and feel some safety and be able to navigate a safe place in your life. So we have to first be surviving, right, before we can get into these finer places. So for all of us who are navigating these higher realms of fine tuning your consciousness, of dealing with your wounding, that have time to, you know, to move into these places, thank you. You know, we get to raise in gratitude and really sit in gratitude for the opportunity to understand these things, for the opportunity to be resonating this within ourselves. And then, you know, as all of us can, we are here to serve one another, not in a, like, you're supposed to help, you know, because you're a good person.
It's not a have
kind
to.
of way. Not a have to, but in
No.
an open our hearts, things just come in. I have found in my life, things just came in for me to serve. I didn't necessarily plan it. Wasn't necessarily what I would have chosen, but it's what I'm doing. And I give thanks and praise because I'm here to serve. I'm here on the mission.
Yeah.
And I'm grateful for my assignment. I'm grateful for the assignment to serve and learn and grow and meet myself and find ways to, you know, empower and help others to do the same by reflecting that passion, reflecting what I've learned, reflecting and helping along the way. So we only can all do our best, and, you know, really just the more you become at peace with that which I am, right? The more this game becomes at least incredibly interesting and a little more fun, right? Because it really is a fun game. And, you know, if there's a lot of really horrific things going on the planet right now, a lot of people are focused on war and on what's happening if you live in a place where, you know, it's real prevalent in your field of like things are, you know, in a scary place. You know, again, we only have control over ourselves and the reality that we are creating in our own being. So going within and getting clarity about, you know, my own direction, my own place of where I need to be, when I'm supposed to activate, you know, going within and being guided unto that versus reacting to anything, because that will only create more fear-driven realities. So be in response to life, creating from a foundation of listening and humility. And in doing so, I find for my own life, the more I surrender and I come back to humility and I just go to God and I just know I don't really know anything, the more that something else then opens and breathes more love and more life into my being or into my life.
Thank you. I read this post by one of our members of our community. I'm going to say their name because they posted it, so it feels safe to say that. Christy Krantz posted something about there's so many things going on in the world that are kind of, I don't know how she phrased it, let's just say not great, that she's decided she's going to focus on having as much joy in her life as she can.
Beautiful.
And I loved that she did that because I've seen her post the difficult things. So I was like, wow, that's so important for that message to be out there. Like, that's when social media really means something to me, because it's like, yeah, that's what we want to do. We want to be putting as much joy, experiences as much joy. It doesn't negate the difficult things that are happening for other people in other places, maybe down the street. There's no value in us all going down that dark rabbit hole together. It's not going to help us.
Well, if you think about like holding the boat up, you know, or like someone's falling off the edge, it's not going to help if I like go down.
If we all jump in after them.
Jump in and like no one's on top of the thing, the you know, the board's going to fall in the water. we got to stand up there and keep the vibration high and keep helping people come up.
Yeah.
And you help people come up just by standing there, just by holding the vibration of joy, just by being in the spirit of love and reflecting more love. Because remember, everything we're seeing out here is just a reflection of our own selves. So, we're seeing war. If we're concentrated on war, where are we at war with ourselves? Right? Like if you're feeling a lot about, oh my God, the war, what's going to happen with the war? If that's what you're feeling, well, you're probably warring in yourself still, right?
There's some traumas that you haven't looked at, and you're focusing. It's so much easier to focus on somebody else's problems than to address things within our own life.
Oh, yeah. And that's kind of back to the blame game and victimizer, which is what everyone's doing, what makes it hard to get at ourselves because our defense offense programs ignite and they go deflect and then, no, not me, you're not getting in there, because we don't want to look at those things. We would rather it be someone else's fault or something done to us versus being responsible for it. Because taking responsibility, back to that, is actually quite difficult, which is why religion's everywhere in the form it is, because it's easier to think that there's somebody else pulling the strings.
Somebody else will save me from myself.
Rather than that I'm responsible for myself and I have to actually take authority over my own life, and I have to choose love, and I have to actually be it, and I have to actually walk in it and live it and be kind and generous. I have to do these things. That's, that's a lot for a lot of people.
And I'm actually powerful.
Yeah. And to know, well, I always say the biggest problem we have is we have a planet full of angelic humans who have no idea that's what they are, that are divine co-creators. So we're just all going around unconsciously creating. And that's what we've done
But we're waking up. We're waking up.
We are waking up.
Yep.
And this is the time. So as we
the alarm is ringing,
and exactly all of the things with AI stuff can be a real service, and it is right now on this ascension process. And back to that, if you're using it to create, well, then we're putting positive energy into the system, which creates benevolence. I love that. I heard this person talking about benevolent AI versus,
love that.
Right. So I'm thinking of it as a
malevolent,
malevolent or benevolent. So benevolent AI, because if I'm using it to create, I'm putting my phantom self into that matrix, right? This is a portal thing, the computer.
Yeah.
So you're creating like AI friend. Like, have you ever been like, oh my gosh, I was stumbling around something. I clicked on something and it was exactly what I was looking for.
Yeah.
Or it was, spirit led. That's like the benevolence of AI, because it's our own energy. We're putting that forth into it. If we're just sitting there going jacked in like, and I'm just getting the feed.
Right.
I'm not putting in a benevolent AI. I'm just activating the siphon, which is giving power to the more malevolent AI. So we are creating how AI works. We are creating how the war or the whatever works with how we perceive it, how we see it, and how we choose to love day to day in our own lives. If we choose to still get on the phone with our loved ones and be in frustration and anger when we're, speaking truths about love out there with others, we're still not in accordance with ourselves. If we're still not able to do that in our own house, right? So we have
it's always easier to look at it out there than it is right at home.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's where the work is. It's right in your own temple.
Yes.
In your own self. No matter where you go, it's wherever you go, we have the opportunity to be love. And things are going to scratch us and hurt us and try to get us to not be love. And that's really that is the test. Can I stay in my love regardless of what I think anybody around me is doing, quote unquote, to me, and realize that nobody makes me feel anything and that I'm fully in charge of this journey and I get to create more joy, more expansion. I get to be a co-creator on the mission. I get to be a collaborator in creating something beautiful. And if I place my attention into what I want to create versus what I don't want, then my experience gets to change.
One of the things that I remember having this aha when I was going through some really difficult times, like 20-something years ago, was that however difficult it was, I knew there'd be a light at the end of the tunnel kind of thing. And I thought, it's going to give me something that's going to help other people. And if I didn't have this experience, I wouldn't have that depth of understanding. And somebody also had said something like that to me. It's like, by you going through this, you're going to have an understanding. But then I got it. It's one thing to be told that, like I'm talking right now and someone's hearing that and they're like, yeah, you have no idea how hard this is for me right now. Mm-hmm. And yet there's these nuggets in there of wisdom that come out of those difficult experiences. And they don't last. The experience, just like time, it's fleeting.
It changes.
It changes. So as difficult that dark night of the soul can be, there's these beautiful, bright nuggets that come out of it.
Absolutely. I was sharing with the ladies I was teaching and facilitating this week, about, I feel like one of my nuggets is I've kind of had a million different lives, like short spurts. I feel like I've been everybody. I've had a lot of different realities, and I've gotten to experience a lot of different things, and I've been in a lot of traumatic places and seen a lot of things.
In this lifetime?
In this lifetime.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. In this lifetime, I've had a whole lot of things go down. Mm-hmm. And I've spent a lot of time in other countries doing a lot of things and nonprofit work and, lots of stuff that has shown me the underbelly of many things. So yeah. I've had the opportunity to face those little nuggets of surrender and depth and the dark night of the soul and to witness kind of, the depth of the molasses that it takes. And like you said, it's at the bottom of the well. And like you said, it's not just about yourself. It's about, we're all one. So as I'm healing myself, as I'm like, I picked some really hard lessons in my life. And just because I'm stubborn, I guess. I don't know. Or because I just wanted to go fast. So I'm like, give it to me hard.
Yeah.
And I'm going to get this and I'm not wasting any time. So, I've had some hard lessons and they've been deep and fast and intense, but I've been able to help so many people then get through that thing I experienced. And that's happened to me numerous times of understanding. And like you said, I feel this depth. I kind of feel like I'm everyone. Like I can really relate to any trauma. There's nothing that anybody tells me that I feel like, oh God, I can't relate to that. I feel like I can relate to all of it. Like, I get it. Totally get that. And I can feel the well of shame. I can feel what it might feel like. And I was in that well of shame myself at one point in an abusive relationship for about a year here with a local Hawaiian man. But anyway, that was a rather shame-driven experience. And I was quite great and amazing myself at the time. Thought, oh, I'm somebody, how am I here? Well, because I had these things really going on around my father, issues around not feeling enough and worthy and all these things. So I'm attracting this horrific experience to myself. But that also showed me the depth of, of healing that we all need to do, because I then realized and saw it everywhere. Like I saw all the people that were actually going through that. Like I could see it. Like then I could see people and see that they're experiencing that. And I'm like, oh, wow, this is happening everywhere. Like we need to address this stuff. Like people, it's hard to get out of the well. I have tools. I'm smart. Like somebody who's got no tools, isn't really come from anything. This is really difficult.
Oh my gosh.
This is really difficult.
Yeah.
And it's deep and it's drudgery.
It's very deep.
So we, especially if you're sitting in a higher vibratory field, especially if you're experiencing the joy, the love, the bliss, guess what we get to do? More compassion for our fellow humans that are having very deep times in the trauma fields. More compassion. And it just the energy of compassion alone is all that's needed. Just breathing into compassion, feeling compassion, and loving them all, and loving everything.
Seeing them enjoy too. Like that's one of the things.
Let's all see each other experiencing
enjoy.
The joy of dance, enjoy your ecstasy, your curiosity, your inspiration.
When I was kind of coaching my daughter through her difficult abusive situation for a couple of years, it was hard. It was hard to witness, but I knew that because of my own life experience, I knew she'd get through it, and I knew she'd be stronger for it. She'd be different. And I look at
the fire.
What?
You go through that fire we talked about.
Go through the fire, and I look at her now. Just I can see it in her picture. I'm like, wow, she's stepped She stepped up a lot.
Spiraled
And
up.
without that, wouldn't be this. So
Mhm.
it isn't that was bad. There is nothing to me that has happened in my life that was bad. It was what it was, and I can learn from it, or I can blame, or I can stay in victim about it. The best thing I can do is to learn from it and trust and move through it and learn new tools and allow myself to be the all-powerful, wonderful being that I am, and not hide behind any stories about I can't be that because of this or that.
Right, not give in to any limiting beliefs.
Yeah.
And realize you are the co-creator of your journey.
Yeah.
That we decide now.
We're the director,
Like
the
nobody
producer,
else. Yeah. That's right. And the actor, starring role. You're in the starring role.
and you're writing it.
You're
you
writing
got
the
the
whole
script.
thing. You got it all.
Yeah.
You got it all. So what do you want your movie to look like? How do you want it to be? You're in charge. Take charge of your reality, and let's all live from the heart of gratitude. Thank you for joining us. And
Thank you for being
exploring.
here today, Michál.
And thank you,
Yeah,
Miss
it's kind
Eila.
of nice doing back to back. It feels less. It feels more relaxed.
Oh,
I
so
feel
maybe we're
very
like
relaxed
every week
today.
now. As soon as Eila's back, we're gonna. No. We're just gonna.
We'll see.
Amp it
We'll
up.
see.
Amp
Maybe
it
we'll
up.
throw in one once in a while.
Yeah,
Anyway,
yeah.
thank you all for tuning in and supporting KNKR and for our show and for your sharing of comments out there in the community. If there's anything you want us to touch on, let us know. Michal and I are pretty easy to find in the community.
Yes, and if you're from afar and you're interested in sessions or any works or tools, resources, etc., you can always email michalannalove@gmail.com, michalannalove@gmail.com, or Eila@allgood.com. Is that right?
No, that's not my email.
Darn it. What is it?
eallgood@gmail.com. All right, everybody. Have a beautiful day, and we'll see you in a couple weeks.
Aloha.
Aloha.